Welcome to Your Federal Retirement, where federal employees just like you come for advice and information so they can maximize your federal retirement benefits. My name is Jeff Betcher, your host, Federal Retirement Advisor, and today we're going to be talking about a basic overview of your federal retirement benefits. This content is for informational purposes only and is not personalized financial advice. Please read the disclosure on the page. Folks, probably the biggest thing to do here is regarding educating yourself on your federal retirement benefits. Now, you're here watching this podcast. The assumption, of course, is that you're going to be, checking out some other resources. We're all for it. In the link below, I want you to do a couple things. A, subscribe, because we're constantly producing new material. I also want you to sign up for the newsletter, but definitely subscribe to our channel here. And so we're going to be distributing information. We'll get more information out to you. You will also find links and resources in the information attached to this podcast. You're going to find all sorts of clips and links related to other information that you can do some reading on. So we've done the work for you. We've aggregated a lot of the content. We hope you use it because step one, educate yourself on your benefits. That's probably the primary component there. So let's talk about some details. For many people, retirement is inevitable, and the reality is that life is short. So taking action now and learning about your federal retirement benefits and learning about, more importantly, maybe the retirement process that you're going to be engaging in and the systems on how to engage. Preparing for retirement savings, you have to take into consideration the consumption. We'll talk about how to calculate consumption shortly. And you also want to take into consideration when you lose your mobility, sacrificing your health, hopefully many years from now, how does that impact your financial condition? Are you planning on working a second job, or do substantial cost increases related to long-term care or things of that nature, how does that weigh into your ability to satiate your financial needs? Some of the benefits specifically related to your pension, to your FERS or CERS annuity, the income from the pension is very high compared to private market pensions. Most private market companies don't even offer a pension anymore. So the fact as federal employees that you have a pension to rely upon, that's amazing. And then on a percentage basis of your income, the pension is exceedingly rich. So congratulations, it's a great benefit. Similarly, it has a guarantee to provide you income for as long as you live. So as a federal employee who qualifies for the FERS or CERS annuity, that pension, that annuity is going to continue on from the day you retire until the day you pass away. Similarly, because the future is uncertain, there are certain things we absolutely cannot control. Having something like a guaranteed income stream, i.e. the pension, things of that nature, really can provide a quality of life, a comfort level that is unique due to your circumstance compared to non-federal employees. And also, at the very least, as you begin studying or begin learning about retirement, begin preparing for retirement, if that's next week, if that's next year, if that's 5 years from now, if you're going through the effort of gathering information, you're going through the effort of educating yourself, congratulations on going through that effort. And as I mentioned a few minutes ago, educating yourself on the rules of your retirement, educating yourself on the benefits, that education does have substantive value. The key takeaway here, what I hope that you will gather as a key primary topic here, broader perspective, deeper knowledge, both broad and deep. Broader knowledge, deeper understanding of your benefits, how they work. They are going to have a massive impact on how much you receive in retirement, how comfortable your financial life is. More knowledge is better. So let's talk about the basic overview related to your federal retirement benefits. We are going to concentrate on FERS, on FERS individuals, the percentage of individuals who are still CSRS or who are still employed and also under the CRS or CSRS program, very small. So we're going to focus on FERS. FERS started in '87, dated back to '84. It's for federal employees hired after those dates. With the FERS benefits, they refer to it as or it's often referred to as a three-legged stool. The third leg of that stool is Social Security, or as I'm often told to pronounce it, Social Security. Apparently, I mispronounce that sometimes. So, it's the FERS pension, FERS annuity, Social Security, and the thrift savings plan. So you want to make sure that you're taking advantage of all of those. Let's talk about the importance. How valuable is the FERS pension? Approximately 40%, that's the estimate. Approximately 40% of your pre-retirement income, or I should say differently, approximately 4% of your estimated retirement income, the amount of money you're going to make in retirement, about 40% of that is probably going to come from your FERS pension. Now, past the basic information, I want to touch on a couple, I'm going to call them key critical components, subsets of the bigger picture. Let's talk about the most basic. When you retire, your salary stops. What you have to recognize is that as your income ceases from employment, you have to replace it with other sources. Now, that's oftentimes your TSP, your pension, Social Security, what have you. So you really have to start looking at the math, but you have to recognize very clearly that income will end and the next income has to begin. Now, when we look at the different income sources, we're going to talk about retirement eligibility. Specific to FERS, we'll talk about the minimum retirement age and eligibility for retirement. If you retire, or if you choose to retire under MRA, you need to be mindful, conscious of the fact that your post-retirement work, if you choose to take a job after federal retirement, retire at MRA, take a different job, start collecting Social Security, that subsequent job is going to have an impact on how your Social Security is taxed. Your unreduced pension, or a pension that is you're getting full bore, as much as you would eligible for, that eligibility, years of service, high 3 income, is also retirement eligibility based on the age in which you retire. You could have 20 years in, be 38, for instance. That's not MRA. You have 20 years, but you haven't reached the retirement age yet. And so the retirement age, or the minimum age for an unreduced pension, is 5 years of employment and age 62. You're also eligible to receive an immediate FERS pension for individuals who have MRA, who have reached that age and 10 years of service, or age 60 and 20 years. 4% rule. You take 4%, you multiply it by your retirement savings. $500,000 or $2 million. In most environments and most lengths of time in retirement, that 4% will probably hold true over a 20 or 30-year time frame. And so over a 20-year time frame, for instance, a person with $500,000 is likely to be able to draw approximately $20,000 per year in retirement. A person with $2 million is likely to be able to draw approximately $80,000. That's 4% times the $2 million. Is likely to be able to draw $80,000 per year from their retirement savings. Again, interest rate sensitivity and where things are, with the 4% rule, and why this is, why I personally don't prescribe to it. The 4% rule does not necessarily take into consideration inflation. $20,000 the year of retirement, if you maintain $20,000 a year for 30 years, 30 years from now, $20,000 does not buy the same quantity of goods. That gallon of milk is worth considerably more. That gallon of gas, considerably more. That plane ticket, considerably more. So the 4% rule fails as it relates to certain taxation and inflationary concerns. And this is where finding a highly qualified, highly specialized federal retirement advisor, or finding somebody in your neck of the woods that you can like and trust and all those things, that person's going to be able to provide value. The highest quality of those federal retirement advisors will be able to consult with you with regard to not only how to avoid major negative swings in your portfolio, but will also be able to help you identify the cash flow that you can safely take from your portfolio. So you can contact PSRE. You can contact us. We're one of the largest national affiliates of individuals. We think our guys are really talented. So if you're interested in talking to somebody, you can certainly reach out to PSRE. We're happy to help. The link will be in a link will be in the information below. Schedule an appointment. Interview people. Interview lots of people. How your thrift savings plan is different than your pension. They're massively different. Your pension, very simply put, is the federal government guaranteeing you cash flow. The good, the bad, the ugly, they're going to guarantee you cash flow based on not the market, not interest rates, not taxation, but rather the length of time you worked for them and your high 3. That's your pension calculation. Your thrift savings plan, however, is very, very, very different. The TSP is analogous to a private market 401k plan. So it's stocks and bonds and mutual funds. You're going to get all the good and all the bad. You're going to get the performance that your asset allocation has dictated. You got all the G fund, well, you're going to get G fund-like performance. You got all the C fund, well, when the market is running, you're going to get great returns. When the market is capitulating or getting hurt or moving in negative territory, well, obviously you're going to see the losses accordingly. Asset allocation, common phrase, look at a pie chart. You've cut your portfolio up, you've cut your TSP balance up into different percentages. A little bit in a G fund, a little bit in I fund, a little bit in C fund, for instance. That pie chart is your asset allocation. Your TSP's performance is dictated primarily by how much you have in stocks or bonds or the G fund. It's dictated by the amount of risk you've allocated into that portfolio. So again, CSI, it's dictated by how much risk you have in the portfolio and how much safety. Bonds and the G fund, for instance, more safe than C fund traditionally. And so that risk is going to dictate, or is going to be dictated by that asset allocation, your long-term performance. This is while you are working, and definitively after you retire. While you're working, you're going to be contributing hopefully at least 5%. The federal government automatically gives 1, and then they match a subsequent percentage. Suffice it to say that, forget the complexity. If you put in 5, they're going to put in 5. So put in 5 while you're working. Contribute at least 5% to your TSP, at least 5%. But then as you put money in, I read a statistic, something like it is in excess of, or very, very near to 50%, 50% of the TSP's investments are allocated to the G fund. That may be a great thing when the market declines, but that roughly 50% number has been consistent over the last, I believe, 10 years plus. And so if you go back to 2010, 2015, where the market has been predominantly on an upward swing, certainly the market is higher in 2022, early 2023 than it was in 2010, for instance. And that upward swing, the people that have invested solely in the G fund received almost none of that, because the G fund paid a paltry 1, maybe 2%. In 2020, the G fund paid less than 1/2 of 1% in yield. So guaranteed safety, G fund is principally guaranteed, but the growth rate is anemic traditionally. So how you put the money to work is going to dictate the type of growth you have. This again is where it's important to identify a professional that can assist you, a federal retirement advisor who has the expertise, who has the capacity to consult with you about the type of funds in your types of funds in your TSP that you want to invest in. People that can offer a little bit of consult with regard to how aggressive or how defensive you need to be. In retirement, the TSP, there are no more contributions. At retirement, the federal government, your federal agency employer, no longer makes contributions. You are no longer eligible to make contributions because, of course, you're no longer earning, so your salary ends. The contributions to the TSP stop because the contributions are salary-based, a percentage of salary-based. And so at retirement, the TSP fund, whatever amount you have invested and earned and the portfolio has grown to, that amount can stay certainly in the TSP, can be rolled into an IRA, can be transferred into the TSP annuity, and we'll get into this in a little bit, but you have primarily those three options. Leave it there, roll it into an IRA, or roll it into the TSP annuity. So let's talk about some of the main points. Again, we're going to do a summarize of some of the stuff we've already covered along with some additional topics. As you enter or as you approach retirement, first and foremost, what questions are you going to be asking either of yourself or of the expert that you are consulting with? You want to get a basic overview of the benefits that you're eligible for, and then of those things that are most relevant, you want to really dig in deep. You want to understand not only the income you're going to earn, but as I mentioned earlier, you need to understand your consumption. Do not arbitrarily select a number and go, that's the amount of money I'll live on. You're going to be wrong. The amount of money you're currently spending, or more specifically, the amount of money you're currently earning minus the amount of money you're saving. You're making $120,000 and you're saving 20, that means you're living on 100,000. 20,000 goes into the TSP, 120 minus savings, $100,000. If you're not saving in a CD or in a brokerage account or in your TSP, that $100,000 is consumed. That's your lifestyle. It's not more complex than that. People can get out a spreadsheet and talk about all the different nuance. Well, my utilities, I can save this amount if I cut out my cable bill or whatever. It's not realistic. The amount of money in pre-retirement minus savings, that's consumption. That's how much your lifestyle costs. That's how much you should be targeting. That's the most realistic estimate. And so you want to understand from a GAAP, G-A-P, a GAAP standpoint, how much guaranteed income, FERS pension, SERS pension, of course, your pension, your Social Security, those are guaranteed sources of income. When to start Social Security, it's a very, 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 very big topic. We're not going to cover all that today, but when you start Social Security has a massive impact on the amount you're going to earn. So you've got your pension, you've got Social Security, and then you've got the distributions from your TSP. Combined, can all of those get you to that consumption amount? So again, how much do we take out of our TSP? What type of cash flow do we need? How do we take cash flow? How you take cash flow is going to determine massively how safe that future income looks like. It's also important to understand the deductions that are going to come out of your retirement income. Deductions to pay attention to pay special attention to, survivor benefits, your FEHB, taxes, and your life insurance that you might retain, your FEGLI that you might retain in retirement. All of those are going to impact your paycheck, your survivor benefits on your pension. You ask for full survivor benefits, your pension is going to be reduced. Oftentimes people look at their FERS or SERS pension and they look at the maximum number they could be eligible for, and they forget to take into consideration, well, I'm married and I want my spouse to have some level of income. If I get, if I'm riding a bike across the street and I meet a bus, what happens if? Well, that might happen a year, it might happen when you're 95, it might never happen, of course, hopefully, but you don't know when you're not able to control that timing. Many people choose to have either a life insurance fund that risk or to choose a spousal benefit that will create income in your when you're no longer with us and in your early demise. Your spouse will receive some level of income. All of those are going to reduce your pension income. Take into consideration, as we move on, Social Security. I mentioned a minute ago, when you start Social Security is massively important. Social Security increases at a guaranteed programmatic rate between the age of first earning all the way up until you reach the full retirement age. And so the full retirement age is predicated on your date of birth, but that number increases. And then after you reach that age, it increases still, but now at a higher percentage of 8%. So up until you are age 70 years old, from your full retirement age all the way up to age 70, Social Security continues to compound at a rate of 8%. So when you trigger Social Security, you're going to dictate, you're going to lock in all of your future income and all the future income increases, cost of living adjustment, all those future income increases are predicated on that initial number. $1 at 4% or $1.20 at 4%. If you do that math over a 20-year window, the $1.20 at 4% is going to be exponentially larger than starting at $1 at 4%. The cost of living is 4. The difference between the $1 and the $1.20 is predicated on when you choose to trigger that first Social Security check. So postponing it a little bit, if you have cash flow from other sources that you can absorb or take on, taking out of your taking out of your TSP, taking out of a brokerage account, taking out of your savings account, if you can postpone Social Security, sometimes it's the right answer. The easiest question to ask, and the most important, do you have enough? Now that might be the easiest question to ask, it's probably the most difficult question to answer. And the reason it's so difficult to answer is it's because the answer is unique. It's person by person by person by person. There is not an answer. And so I can't provide you, oh, you need $1 million in your TSP. That's wrong. It's not correct. It's not correct for 99.999% of you out there. It might be correct for that .001, but for everybody else, it's wrong. It's a personal question, a personal answer, and the answer is always predicated on your consumption, your current savings, your health, your marital situation, where you're living, the taxation rate, the tax rates, all of those things, all of those are going to dictate what the right answer is. This is where you need, and I believe this is all caps, need, N-E-E-D, a federal retirement advisor to help you. Now, some people, again, like to do this alone. I think it's a gross mistake. In the legal profession, the phrase goes something like, if you're an attorney who is also your client, you have an idiot for a client. In the context of retirement planning, if you are the guy who is doing all the retirement planning and you're also the guy whose retirement planning you're doing it for, professionals hire professionals. They realize that there is an emotional attachment to money. They recognize that they want to live their life and they want to be able to travel and do things. And as soon as you step away from the computer, as soon as you step away from the screen, as soon as you take that vacation, your money is now being unwatched. And if it's being unwatched, that means things happen in the market, they happen in the interest rate market, and you can't respond to that. Not while you're on a cruise ship, not while you're on vacation, not while you're on the road, not while you're sleeping. I believe that the smartest people will hire a professional to assist. I believe you need expert advice. So personal preference, personal belief, I guess, but suffice it to say, those individuals who have high quality, really intelligent advisors they're gonna get educated more easily, they're gonna know more stuff, they're gonna be able to make more educated, more informed decisions, and people making more informed decisions tend to make better decisions. So the Thrift Savings Plan, massive benefit in the future, represents, the numbers are approximately 40% of your income. So your annuity, your FERS annuity represents about 40%. The TSP is supposed to represent about 40%. Social Security, give or take 20. So that's how you get to that, your retirement income need, if you will, is through those three sources. 40% of your income is coming out of something that has volatility. 40% of your income comes out of something that might have massive risk. 40% of your income might come from something that you can make mistakes on. Find an expert. The three-legged stool: Social Security, FERS pension, and your thrift savings plan. So now the question, when can you retire? I wish I could say yesterday. Maybe for you that's correct. I wish I could give you a specific date and time. Don't have that knowledge because I don't know you. But working with an expert, you're going to be able to calculate a specific date in which all things realistically that are going to take place, this is the date in which I'm going to be at that point where anything after that is just gravy. So when you can retire is a personalized calculation. You're going to have, of course, your MRA, your 60 plus 20, your 5 years of service at age 62. All of those possible components weighing in. Some of you thinking about retiring at 61, realizing, well, if I wait until 62, I get a 10% increase on my FERS pension. That's a factual statement. Retiring at 62 or triggering your pension at 62 versus 61 in 300 days, 62 matters. This is where the little things can make a difference. Age 62 is a 10% increase of your pension. One day, massive difference. Small nuance changes have a substantial impact in your long-term income. So you want to be taken into consideration. Obviously, if you are a special category employee, law enforcement officers, firefighters, FAA, air traffic controllers, etc., your calculations are different. And although we're not going to cover your calculations here, your retirement calculations allow you to retire earlier. So again, when can you retire? What's your consumption? What's your guaranteed income? And then all your individual personal questions, conclusions, whatever else, all of those personal components that weigh into that. When can you retire? I hope tomorrow. But more importantly, you got to be getting the expert advice so you can find out how to retire most quickly, soonest, or most efficiently. That way, all future subsequent effort or hours on the job is just accretive. It's just the gravy on top. Now, for those of you who are considering leaving your thrift savings plan or leaving your savings in the TSP after retirement, let's talk about the best way to keep your TSP money growing in retirement. Now, as I mentioned previously, you can no longer make contributions to your TSP after you retire. And some people, again, may choose to take their thrift savings plan balance and roll it into an IRA. We need to talk about I'm going to call it the albatross. It's the 800-pound gorilla. It's the big thing, right? It's this, the TSP annuity. Let's talk about what the TSP annuity is, because we talk about continue to grow your assets in the TSP after retirement. The TSP annuity is one way to guarantee that your money doesn't grow in retirement. The TSP annuity, now mind you, the word annuity is different. Social Security is an annuity. The TSP annuity is a type of annuity. Social Security type of annuity, pension type of annuity. The TSP annuity is a product offered by MetLife, part of the Thrift Savings Plan program. The TSP annuity, the MetLife product, and I like Snoopy. I think Snoopy's great. I think MetLife's a good company. But if you're going to, quote, buy the TSP annuity, what you're really doing is you're transferring ownership. You're giving your money to Met. They own it. Then MetLife guarantees to pay you an income for the rest of your life. Of course, if you live to 130, getting that cash flow guaranteed forever, well, that's a great thing. But if you give MetLife all your money and then you fast forward a year and you're in a horrible car crash, under most circumstances, Met owns your money. It's theirs. It doesn't come back. It doesn't go to your spouse. It doesn't go to your kids. It doesn't go to your loved ones. They keep it. So seldom is the TSP annuity the right answer. I'm not saying it's always the wrong answer. Seldom it's the right answer. And I would look at every possible option before I would select that. Every possible option first. That should be the last point of consideration. So keeping the money growing in retirement, leave it in the TSP. That's an option. Roll it into an IRA. That's an option. Again, move it to the TSP annuity. By all intents and purposes, not much of an option. So leaving it in the TSP, you have the option of leaving it in the G fund, the C fund, the S fund, or an L fund, any combination thereof, and take one-time or periodic distributions from your TSP. A lot of people do that. It is a very viable option. Of course, the cost of the TSP funds, it's attractive. The cost is low. The advice, the service, the access, also low. In fact, the TSP offers no advice. The customer service. We've heard stories of people being on hold for hours, just to get somebody to pick up the phone. A nightmare story that we heard that during the transition from the old TSP website, to the new TSP website. Clients of ours were on hold for hours and hours and hours and hours, multiple hours, only to get hung up on after the fact. So if that's how you want to, that's the relationship you want with your money, then that's the option you select. Again, some people say, the devil you know is maybe better than the devil you don't. So maybe you say, well, my money's going to stay in the TSP and I like it there. Of course, that's your prerogative. Most individuals who truly understand the options that exist roll the money into an IRA, and then inside of that IRA, they are able to engage in alternate investments that have their own performance profile. Effectively, when it comes down to your TSP, really one phrase: weigh your options. Look at the TSP, talk to an expert, identify the income that you might get from the TSP annuity, put all of those on the table, and in your conversation with the expert, with the federal retirement advisor that you select and want to talk to, and maybe you want to talk to two, at the very least, absolutely talk to one. But in your review of these different choices, it becomes, I refer to it as spreadsheet the problem. You put it on a spreadsheet, you weigh the options, you look at the pros and cons, and oftentimes the smartest decision really just kind of rises to the top. It almost becomes very obvious what you should do. So get all the answers, ask the right questions, get all the answers, and put them on a piece of paper and, what am I supposed to do here? And again, what you're trying to accomplish, do you want your spouse to receive the benefits when you're gone? Do you want your kids to receive your retirement savings, or do you care that MetLife inherits it? Do you want increasing income? Do you want control? Do you want access? Do you want better customer service? Those are all things to weigh. Weigh the benefits, weigh the detractions, and make some smart decisions. So let's shift gears almost entirely. Let's talk about the special retirement supplement. The first supplement is effectively cash flow related to your income, related to your employment, that is triggered prior to you reaching Social Security eligibility. So at 62 years old, you're going to be eligible for Social Security. If you retire prior to that, the special supplement will step in and provide for a percentage of income somewhat equivalent to your Social Security benefits. Now, the special supplement was invented, if you will, to bridge the divide or bridge the gap between individuals that became retirement eligible earlier. So, for instance, they reached MRA with full eligibility, or they were able to retire at age 60 because they had the requisite number of years, but they weren't yet eligible for Social Security. So the government provided this special supplement to again bridge that gap. Now, not all FERS employees are eligible. We do have another podcast specifically related to the special supplement, so we'll kind of cover things at a high level view here. From an income standpoint, the SRS, the special supplement, is treated much like Social Security from a taxation standpoint. Similarly, if you happen to get a job after leaving federal service, the income that you're going to earn from that job is going to impact, or will very likely impact, how your SRS is paid out or how much you're able to earn there. So be mindful of that. Your SRS will be paid. If you get another job, your SRS likely will be reduced. So let's now talk about your health coverage, FEHB. Folks, my personal opinion is that FEHB might be one of the greatest benefits federal employees have in retirement. FEHB is a very, very, very generous platform. I think it's great. I tell every one of my clients, I ask the simple question: have you maintained FEHB for at least the last 5 years? And I think everybody except maybe a handful have said, yeah, absolutely. The reason why that 5-year window is important is because to maintain FEHB in retirement, you have to have maintained FEHB during employment for a minimum of 5 years. So to be eligible for FEHB in retirement, it's that 5-year window. So if for whatever reason you allowed it to lapse, if if you allowed it to lapse 4 years ago and you're thinking about retiring tomorrow, you got to seriously weigh the options and wonder whether or not that lifetime eligibility for FEHB is worth another year of employment. So 5-year threshold, highly valuable benefit. You're also able to coordinate your FEHB benefits with Medicare. Again, we have a podcast that'll talk about Medicare and how Medicare interacts with FEHB. I recently actually published an article related to that topic, FEHB and Medicare eligibility. But you need to understand, which is exceedingly personal, how your health weighs into your FEHB and Medicare selections. However, if you die or when you die in retirement, if your spouse is not yet on the FEHB program, if they're not yet brought into the program and you predecease that event, your spouse cannot sign up for FEHB. So if you have FEHB and your spouse is covered elsewhere, you pass away, your spouse does not get FEHB coverage after your departure, after your demise. So if you are going to take FEHB in retirement, I recommend the vast majority, please do, or at least seriously consider it. If you take FEHB in retirement, if your spouse is on FEHB and you pass away, your spouse will remain eligible. It just depends on when they get brought into the program. So if they're covered by a third-party program, possibly their employment, and you predecease them or predecease their election to take up FEHB, they lose access permanently. Also, specific strategies, I'll call them, related to federal couples. So individuals who are both federal employees, husband and wife or what have you, do have the opportunity to proactively elect to have their FEHB coverage under one or the other or both. Now, the finances related to this become a little bit personal, and you want to look at the individual cost structures. You probably also want to consider any Medicare that you might elect to have, any Medicare Advantage plans or things of that nature that you might have. So, but you do have some flexibility there. Again, this is where a federal retirement advisor comes into play. They're going to run that math for you. If they're highly knowledgeable, they'll run the math, they'll help you walk through the process, they'll help you make sure that you get the most out of your FEHB, whether you as the federal employee and a non-Fed spouse, or whether both of you are federal employees, and they'll be able to help you work that math. As we move on, we'll talk very briefly about long-term care. So the FLTCIP, the Federal Long-Term Care Insurance Program, again, podcast specifically related to that. It's a deeper dive that we're going to get into now, but most federal employees and their relatives are eligible to apply for this insurance. You got to look at your savings, you got to look at your consumption, you got to look at your health and family history. Long-term care, I don't know the exact percentages, but the vast majority of couples, one of those individuals is going to have a long-term care reality. You're probably going to need some care in the future. So the vast majority, I believe the number is in excess of 80% of individuals age 60 and older, 80% of those humans are going to be in some manner or another cared for by another person as they age. So it's not everybody, but long-term care is exceedingly expensive. Can you self-insure? Do you want a little bit of help? That's what insurance is. You don't need to insure your car, but if you crash it and it's not insured, you got to pay for it. Long-term care is the same way. You don't need long-term care insurance, but if you get aged and infirmed, you need some help financially, or you need some help physically to get up and get around and whatever else. Having that long-term care insurance, well, very similar concept, it's going to get you taken care of. So long-term care. FEGLI, F-E-G-L-I, FEGLI, if you've purchased FEGLI optional coverage, specifically option B, please talk to an expert today. FEGLI option B is the largest life insurance platform on the planet, largest group life insurance platform on the planet. 5 million plus or minus individuals covered by this platform. It's huge. Because of that huge buying power, if you're 35 years old, the cost of FEGLI is cheaper than any other term policy you can get. It's incredible. However, the cost differential between the age of 35 and the age of 70 is in excess of something like 4,000% more. Think about this. From 34 years old, and then at 35 it increases, at 40 it increases, at 45 it increases. From 34 to age 70, it's something along the lines of 4,000% more expensive. That's atrocious. You don't own option B at age 70 if you understand how expensive it is. If you're approaching retirement, let's say you're 50, 55, and you're just on this podcast and you're starting to get some basic information, or you're 65 and you're about to retire tomorrow, if you own option B, click the button below and let's have a conversation, because option B is atrociously expensive. There's going to be better options for the vast majority of people. You're going to be able to reduce the cost substantially. If you're watching this at 45, if you know someone that might be 45 and have option B, if you compel them, or if you speak to a federal retirement advisor, specifically someone that understands FEGLI incredibly well, that person is very, very likely to be able to find a way to reduce your current cost. And then you can use the amount you save to continue to save more for retirement, but they can reduce the current cost, lock in that price tag, avoid the increase in cost structure substantially, or possibly have you moved into a life insurance platform that allows for IRS provisioned, IRS allowed withdrawals, cash withdrawals. I believe it's section 7702 of the IRS code, taking withdrawals from the cash value of a life insurance policy. Oftentimes you can reduce the cost, increase the benefit, and create cash accumulation in your life insurance simply by moving away from FEGLI, but using the same dollars just more efficiently. Life insurance and retirement, if you own option B, just talked about it. For individuals who own FEGLI Basic, what have you, your life insurance program in retirement, there is no cash value in FEGLI. It's straight death benefit. There's only a value when you die. As federal employees are hired, they're automatically, or most are automatically covered by FEGLI. At retirement, people have choices on whether or not they keep their FEGLI Basic. We're going to have another podcast that specifically covers FEGLI. We won't get into the details, but FEGLI in retirement, more often than not, you're better off finding a different option. Depend on the details. Postal employees, for instance, no, keep FEGLI Basic. But for a lot of employees, it's not always so cut and dry. So in retirement, FEGLI in retirement, major impact on how much you're covered for, how much the costs are. So watch the other podcasts if you have some really, a deeper question on that, if you will. So what should you do? As a federal employee, you're watching this podcast, I presume, for one reason. You're looking for knowledge and information. Obviously, this isn't sports scores. We're not talking about the Kardashians. We're talking about federal retirement. And so if you're watching this podcast, if you're this deep into the conversation, clearly you're thinking about how do you maximize your federal retirement benefits? How do you reduce the extraneous and irrelevant expenses? Are there things that we can remove from your life, or from the expenses of your benefits, to increase your financial security in retirement? Are there things you can do, elections you can make, decisions you can make, boxes you can check on your retirement application? Are there things that you can do that will give you more money or give you a greater level of safety? To both of those questions, the answer is a resounding yes. You can reduce your costs. You can increase your cash flow. You can do all of those things. Now, either you can spend all of your time watching all of our podcasts, and I welcome you to. I hope that you'll subscribe. I hope that you'll sign up for our newsletter. I hope you get all the information in the world you possibly can. I hope that we're beneficial to you in that manner. You can also click the link below or find a federal retirement advisor who's nearby. Give us a call, reach out to us. We're happy to try to help. Again, we have individuals in virtually every state, so we're able to provide assistance to you as you go through the education process. But the question, what should you do? I just gave you probably the single most important piece of advice I can offer. Find someone that you trust and that you like and ask them for their information. You're not expected to have all the answers. deep, wide. The complexity of your benefits is real. So if you're trying to do this on your own, you got a lot of hours of recordings to watch. I wish you well. I've been doing this for well in excess of 20 years. And so if you're gonna do this for the next 20 days and try to gather all the information, you're probably gonna end up missing some parts that maybe I learned 19 and a half years ago. So folks, if you're doing it on your own, I wish you luck. I highly recommend finding a federal retirement advisor that you can trust, that you can bring that person in and simply ask basic questions. Certainly the basic advice there, but what else can you do? You look for safety. You look for security. You look for solutions that provide guaranteed income. You look for answers that are going to create the cash flow that you need in comparison to your consumption. How much money are you spending? How much money do you need from guaranteed sources to offset that? And if you can't create the guaranteed income, how much risk do you want? How much risk are you comfortable with? Also, look at your TSP. Seriously consider the performance of your thrift savings plan in relation to what you know the market's capable of doing. So depending upon when you're watching this podcast, the market might be going lower, it might be going higher. You might be at an all-time high, it might be at a 3-year low. What you have to be realistic with is understand that the market loses 20% a year on occasion. The market makes 20% a year on occasion. Next year, you have no idea what the year is going to bring. Jerks fly planes into buildings. Interest rates are things that we don't control. Pandemics occur. There's all manner of circumstance that weigh into how the market's going to perform, and all of it, 100% of that, is way beyond our control. So you have to look at your thrift savings plan balance and recognize very specifically that the risk of the TSP is twofold. Do you miss out on the growth? Do you take too much risk and watch your portfolio go through substantial negative fluctuations during bad times? Find the expert, look for safety, look for protection and retirement, look at your TSP and be realistic about what expectations you can have. During great times, it's real easy. Most people get elated about, oh, I made 20% last year. And they forget to realize, well, then 3 years ago, the market was down 20% and they were crying in their saucer of milk. So don't look at the immediacy of performance and project that out going forward. Look at the immediacy of performance and just recognize that it's one day out of 365 in the year, and it's one day out of possibly 36,000 in retirement, maybe 70,000 days in retirement. So today's performance in the market, not tomorrow's performance. And then of course, and highly important, Social Security. When do you trigger it? When do you take the income? Social Security increases up to your full retirement age, and then from full retirement age all the way up to 70, it increases at an even higher percentage. It increases even faster. When you trigger that election will dictate how much it compounds to in the future. And so there are strategies to substantially receive, or to receive substantially more than others. And so find the expert, look for the guarantees, look for the safety, understand your TSP, protect your TSP by understanding the reality of how your TSP is going to perform, and then determine whether or not you want to roll into an IRA or whatever else. And then of course, Social Security, how that impacts things, how your future retirement, security, safety, what have you, how that's going to be impacted by those elements. Huge. So let's recap. This is just a basic overview. Now we've got a lot of time on this podcast. This is 30,000 feet. We haven't touched any of the major details. This is strictly an overview of some of the elements that you have to be considering. If this podcast hopefully taught you anything, it's maybe to say, well, maybe I need some more information. I hope it did. So this is the beginning of education. I hope you continue to jump down that rabbit hole. I hope you continue to gather more information. I hope that you will use us for that resource. But I also will compel you to find a person that you can talk to that can give you personalized, very specific, individualized advice. It's going to provide value. find a federal retirement advisor, talk to that person. You're going to thank me for it. Likewise, as I mentioned previously, you can't be certain about the future. The immediacy of your performance in the TSP has no bearing on tomorrow, zero. So you can't guarantee the future. You can't guarantee your spouse is here. You can't guarantee the market. You can't guarantee that you're going to be here. Tomorrow's a new day. And so live today to the fullest, enjoy your life. But recognize that future cash flow has to last for an awful long time. At least you got to plan for it to last an awful long time, because you could live until your 90s or well into your hundreds. So you got to take into consideration. And of course, obviously, you need to be, I alluded to it earlier with regard to stepping away from the portfolio, stepping away from your accounts, and what takes place in the world. The market's going to move, interest rates are going to move, and they don't call you and tell you in advance. It's never going to be the case. And so you need to get as much information as you possibly can, but you need to recognize that you need to be a little bit fluid, because interest rates today, inflation today, I can guarantee you, is not going to be identical to the interest rates in 10 years, not going to be identical to the inflation rate in 10 years. Things are going to move. And so you have to be able to make adjustments to accommodate. Your plan has to be able to accommodate for those uncertainties. Calls to action. Click the link below. Subscribe to this podcast. Continue to receive whatever information we can provide. 2, if you have an interest in talking to a federal retirement advisor in your neck of the woods, there's another button down below. We'd be happy to help. I can put you in touch, or we can put you in touch with any number of individuals who have a great deal of knowledge related to federal retirement federal retirement benefits. They can help you maximize your future cash flow, help you maximize your future benefits, help you receive the maximum amount from your federal benefits as possible. So these individuals can help. So I guess the call to action. So again, thank you for your time today. If you've liked what you've heard, please head over to psreducators.com and remember to like on any and all of your favorite podcast services. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to smash that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss a new episode. We highly appreciate your help in growing our channels. Thank you again for joining in. I, again, your host, Jeff Betcher, wish you the opportunity to be confident in your federal retirement. Contact PSRE today for any questions. Have a great day.